Welcome back, one and all, to the Always Bayern Chelsea program. Today is July 22nd, 2024, and it's been quite some time since we've been here in this room talking about some soccer, but it's good to be back.
So much going on this summer in our personal lives, in the lives of Chelsea players, Bayern players, both clubs, the organizations, owners, fans. We're about to break into preseason. We just had these beautiful tournaments finish off. It's been an insane summer, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely lots to talk about. And I guess why don't we start things off by talking about the conclusions of the Euro and the Copa America tournaments.
Yeah, starting off with the Euro, I mean, we talked about it a lot on our prior podcasts, and it ended up being a banger of a last game, really. I think that's kind of where I mostly want to go because that's the most what I remember. But, that last final, which had Bayern and Chelsea players involved, was really the best game, I'd argue, of the entire tournament, which was awesome to see.
I think the best game in the tournament was Germany versus Spain, which was, I can't remember if I said it on this program or not, but I know I've said it to you and many others in personal life. Before that match, I had said that's the final. Whoever wins that match is coming through victorious, as I thought that those were the two best teams. So shout out to Germany, a lot of good Bayern players there. I think that there were a few mistakes by Julian Nagelsmann, but overall he did all right and took Germany far, and there's a lot to be hopeful for the German national team. But yeah, congratulations to Spain, and like you said, that final was kind of a little bit of a more passive first half with either team kind of scared to make a mistake, but the second half was really great.
You're right, and we did have that text exchange discussing the comparison of both games. The German-Spain game was incredible. I'll concede my point halfway and say that the first half of the final was pretty bad. The second half was the most fun I probably had watching. Maybe it was because I had had a few drinks. I was outside at the beautiful Nomad Bar sweating so much because it was 95-plus degrees in Milwaukee on that day. But it was awesome, and you really could say that it was the perfect match as a Chelsea fan. You have Cole Palmer and Conor Gallagher going up against Marc Cucurella, and we saw Palmer come in, score the tying goal, and then Cucurella assist the winning goal for Spain. Just insane as a Chelsea fan.
Really a beautiful day for all Chelsea fans out there. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't even think about that. But I do remember texting you that if Cole Palmer comes in before the 70th minute, England's going to have a chance. Or I think I maybe said if Cole Palmer doesn't come in before the 70th minute, Spain walks away with this. And then lo and behold, he comes in the 69th minute, maybe 45 seconds or something like that, and really was the difference maker for England. And it's honestly a shame that he didn't get more time in the tournament. I'll say as a sort of a neutral, but I guess a leaning Chelsea neutral maybe. But yeah, it is a shame he didn't get more time.
Yeah, obviously Southgate, whether he was relieved or they mutually parted ways, I don't remember exactly how it shook out, but clearly he didn't do enough. Did they get to the final? Yes. That's important. Results ultimately are the most important thing. Greg Berhalter, why he got let go. But yeah, Southgate just didn't show me enough in the way that they were winning with that squad of players. And when you got Palmer, the hottest man on the planet, coming off Chelsea's season, you don't play him enough, and he shows you in his mere minutes that he had that he's great, and you still don't play him? Kind of questionable.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to think and to talk about Southgate because in my mind, his style of play with England really mirrored what we saw from Thomas Tuchel at Bayern Munich this year, and I guess you can go ahead and I made a whole video about that, so watch that if you want to know more about my thoughts with Tuchel. But England clearly had the most talent out of any team in the entire world, definitely in the entire Euros, and to watch the kind of football that they played was pretty disappointing, I guess, to say it lightly, and I guess disgusting to say it heavily. But Yeah, they could have done a lot better. I mean, sure they made the finals, which is definitely good. Don't take that for granted. They had the easier side of the bracket. I'm just gonna say it. Granted, in knockout rounds, every game is tough. Every team is tough. In the latter stages of a tournament like this, but they had the easier side of the bracket. They didn't put their talent to use, and I don't know if you want to talk about Harry Kane, but there's been a lot of discussion about him in the soccer world.
You read my mind because I was just looking in my DMs, 45 minutes ago, let's say, and I probably got, 3 or 4 messages from concerned fans wondering if you are the jinx, the curse to the supposed non-curse that you called it about Harry Kane. You have all this talk about, Harry Kane, not cursed. What does he do? He lays another egg and doesn't get a trophy.
It's true. It's true. I was hoping that would maybe even make that latest video go viral with all the talk lately, but not quite. Yeah. So Kane was. It's hard to talk about him this tournament because, like, right off the bat, he was banged up. He came off the end of the season with Bayern Munich, with that back injury against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and clearly just was never fully fit this whole tournament. I think Southgate mentioned it. Whenever Kane was asked about it, he basically said, it's not time to make excuses. Like, I'm fine. But he clearly was slow. He was clearly lumbering. And, he still led the team to the final and had 3 goals, which was the joint top goal scorer with a couple other guys. Shout out to Jamal Musiala from Bayern as well. But it's tough because he clearly didn't look himself, and he clearly wasn't on top of his game, yet he still scored 3 goals, and one of them was a dagger in extra time, and, all this stuff. So it's kind of hard to judge Kane's Euros. Clearly wasn't his best play, but I don't think he was as bad as a lot of people are saying. I think he's kind of just an easy target. England's an easy team to make fun of, and he's kind of, the head of that.
Well, he's the captain, right? So, he's the target that you can poke at because he leads the team, and whether that's right or wrong, you have to claim that stake when you're the captain. When things are going right, you can say, my teammates are playing well, I'm just the captain, and, it is what it is. And then, unfortunately, when things are going poor, they look at you, and you do have to take the blame and say, yeah, part of that's on me. Like I said, whether that's right or wrong, that's just how it is sometimes, and he's probably willing to take that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's true because part of me wants to say, look at Mbappe. He had 1 goal, and it was a penalty in a game that went to penalties. And he was France's captain, and there's just not as much, talk about him in the international stage, but he's supposed to be the best player in the world as well. But on the other hand, watching Kane play and watching him drop back often and honestly play like a midfielder at times was really baffling, which is what you saw at Bayern too. And that's how Tuchel wanted to use him. Maybe that's partially how Southgate wanted to use him, but at this point you got to think that's just how he plays.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens this upcoming season to see if any of that continues.
Yeah, so I guess maybe that's a good button or a good ribbon on our talk about the Euros. Unless you have anything more to say, we could mention Copa.
Yeah, let's talk Copa. I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain here. We had Argentina win the final against Colombia, I want to say, if I have that correct.
Yeah,
and I did watch the match. Very good match. I mean, not a ton happened throughout most of it. I think each team had some chances. Kind of went late into the night because they had this super huge delay due to fans storming the stadium down in Miami, even though they didn't have tickets. Huge mess that I really don't want to get into because there's a lot of politics and stuff behind the scenes with CONMEBOL, the U.S. I don't necessarily want to comment on, but yeah, good match. Argentina ended up scoring, I think it was in extra time, scoring a goal to win 1-0. So exciting to watch. Both teams were great. You could argue Colombia was the best team in Copa the entire time, but Argentina, they do what they always do, and they come out on top. They're the number one team in the world for a reason.
Yeah, I mean they had a great run. Obviously sad to see Messi get hurt in the I think he actually got hurt in the first half, but ended up coming out in the 65th or so minute, re-aggravating an injury. Yeah, Uruguay had a great tournament. Shout out to Canada as well, because Alphonso Davies captains that team, and they made it to the semifinals, which is the farthest Canada's ever made it in their country's history. So, good for them.
Yeah, quite embarrassing. Jesse Marsh, shout out to him, a guy from Wisconsin, leads Team Canada. He's an American, and he was one of the guys that was potentially thought of as somebody who could lead the United States men's national team, and whether they didn't want him at the time or things didn't align, doesn't matter. Now he's leading Canada, takes them further than the United States went. I don't recall if we even had talked about the U.S. on this pod, but boy, oh boy, are they a disaster. Berhalter's out. They played like absolute junk, and frankly, I don't want to be associated with that country and their soccer team.
Yeah, I was gonna close up the Copa discussion just by saying, man, what a disappointing run for the U.S. men's national team. Obviously Uruguay is a good team, but when you see that group come out with Bolivia and Panama, you gotta think, okay, we can advance. We should advance out of this group. And the tournament being hosted in America, losing to Panama was a disaster. There's a lot you could say about it, but to be honest with you, I think what encapsulated it all for me was seeing Berhalter on the sidelines in the U.S.'s final match against Uruguay, trying to tell the team that Bolivia and Panama was tied, and insinuating that they just have to play for a draw, which in my mind is like just total shit. Because one, you never know how that match is going to end. That match is going on. So like you just got to play to win. Like it's kind of infuriating to have that mindset, especially in a group like that.
Frankly, it's downright disgusting, and he'd even mentioned that going into it, they had talked about how they were going to keep up with what the score was in that other match. So going in, you already have a mentality that's terrible for your team. You have to go in with a winner's mentality, saying, we're going to win this game. Forget all the other BS that's out there. That match doesn't matter. Focus on ourselves. I don't know, the energy of the team just doesn't seem right to me. I'm glad Berhalter's out. I saw a video this morning of them in a team meeting before the entire tournament. Just the way he was presenting them with information on this weird PowerPoint, and then guys were answering questions about how they were going to succeed and win. The answers were lackadaisical with zero enthusiasm, weird answers. He asked them how they're going to win. One guy, I don't know who it was, just answered by saying, winning. So you're going to win by winning? What does that even mean? And Berhalter's standing up there with no expression and energy. It's just, I don't know. That's not how you motivate a team, in my opinion. I don't know who they're going to hire. I'm not going to speculate. Every name I've seen, for the most part, has been iffy to me, the ones that they're actually tied to. So I don't know. It could be tough in another 2 years, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the U.S. is really going to have to turn things around for the World Cup in America. They've got some good, talented guys, but like you said, they don't seem like they have a good mentality. A lot can change in a couple of years, and let's hope it does. And
to be clear, a lot of blame on Berhalter, just as much blame on the players.
Totally. Okay, do you want to transition now over to summer news for both Bayern and Chelsea?
Yeah, let's talk about that great club out of Bayern. They're actually out of Munich, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we can start with Bayern Munich. And the same kind of thing for Chelsea, but there hasn't been a ton of concrete moves that have happened. It's mostly just rumors and speculation at this point. But the three moves that have happened this offseason for Bayern Munich that are big for the main squad are the signings of Hiroki Ito from Stuttgart, It sounds like he might play left back, although he's kind of a left center back, left back kind of hybrid guy. And then Michael Olise from Crystal Palace on the winger side, the right wing. Yeah, exactly. Swept away from Chelsea at the 11th hour. And then João Palhinha from Fulham, who is somebody who Bayern was about to sign last year. And then he was in Munich doing his medical tests and had to fly back home because the deal fell apart at the last second. But he's kind of a number 6, a very good Portuguese defensive midfielder.
Also a boo from me because I just don't like Fulham, so I'm not going to like him.
Okay, so those are the 3 signings that Bayern Munich has had so far. And in a bubble, I would say I like all 3 of those signings, but the thing is, what does this mean for the squad going forward? Because it almost certainly means that some guys are going to have to leave, and some of these guys don't want to leave. So there's been a bunch of rumors and speculation of who it's going to be, but, management and company has apparently outlined a group of players who, if they stay or try to stay, they're essentially going to make life hell for, which is, I don't know if that's the best way to do things. I think you should just have these guys fight for their spots and see, may the best man win. But I get it. Company's going to have some ideas of how he wants to play, and Bayern's going to want to offload some of these guys anyways. So the guys who basically could be on the chopping block for Bayern Munich, some big-name staple guys. You got Kimmich, Goretzka, kind of in the midfield, and Kimmich now playing as a right back. We'll see. But then you got Matthijs de Ligt and potentially Upamecano, but it's sounding like for the center backs it's most likely going to be de Ligt on his way to Manchester United. And then Bayern just has a complete, I don't even know what to say, overrun room of wingers at this point. You got, and I guess it's dependent on what system company wants to run. Maybe he wants to run a 2-striker system or something, but essentially you have now Olise, you have Serge Gnabry and Kingsley Coman, Leroy Sané. All 3 of them might be on the move. It's likely that 1 or 2 of them will stay. It sounds like Gnabry and Sané want to stay in Munich, and there's a chance that Coman might be up for a move, but we'll see. But then you also have Musiala, who plays as a winger sometimes. You have Tell, you have Brian Zaragoza, and there's also rumors that, and I guess that's not even counting Thomas Muller, who kind of plays as a 10.
What about Z-Man?
He's going on loan this year. I can't remember to who, but yeah, he's going on loan.
My guy going on loan. Good for him.
Zvanarek, that's who we're talking about. But when he first got called up from the academy, we just referred to him as Z-Man because what a crazy last name.
Yeah, that's interesting about all those wingers for Bayern. I agree there's a clog. At the same time, it doesn't feel like they've purchased a ton of players. Obviously, Olise is the big name, but last year they had so many injuries. I tend to believe that it's not a huge issue to have all these players. Sometimes I find myself thinking Chelsea has too many players, but then you get all these injuries. And I feel like that's the case with Bayern. Some of these guys are aging, tend to be injured, or maybe you rest them more. I see why they maybe would get rid of some of them as well. I don't know, it's interesting. And you mentioned de Ligt and Upamecano too. I mean, unless they're bringing in somebody else, that doesn't make any sense to me.
They're trying to sign Jonathan Tah from Bayer Leverkusen to play center back as well. And then Hiroki Ito could maybe play that left center back position. But yeah, the other thing too that we're hearing from the big bosses at Bayern Munich is that they're trying to offload salary. So guys like Coman and Gnabry make a ton of money, especially to be injured all the time. But yeah, I honestly kind of agree with you, and I don't mind having a bunch of talent and then just having these guys battle their way out to see who's the best. And again, it's a busy season, a busy schedule. You're gonna need to rest some guys anyways. But realistically, I'm a fan of Serge Gnabry. I would like to see him stay. I think that unfortunately for him, he kind of never had a fair shake in Munich. But Brian Zaragoza, I think you got to loan him out. Maybe in the winter. I don't see how he gets any minutes. And then I think it's likely that Coman's going to be sold because there's rumors that Bayern are also heavily trying to get Xavi Simons.
Great player, had a good tournament at the Euros for Netherlands. I saw something the other day about a massive transfer figure for him. I know Bayern's maybe thinking they'll get him next year instead, so that's interesting and something to watch. Who's the other guy they're rumored with? Because I saw something, it was like Simons or somebody. Is it the French guy? I forget his name.
If Simons falls through, they might go after Danny Olmo. Yeah, but Xavi Simons is already familiar with the Bundesliga as well, and PSG wants to loan him again, so it's kind of, it's going to be probably a loan for a year. And the number that I think you maybe saw was 90 million, which is a lot.
Yeah, that doesn't add up to me. I really hadn't even known his name maybe once before watching the Euros. So to me, that doesn't make sense. But I'm no expert as well, and it's not like I'm watching Ligue 1 all the time. So
the thing is too, Bayern is going to be going after Florian Wirtz next summer, and he's going to be somebody who's around the 100 million euro range, which is insane. So, Bayern is trying to offload a bunch of guys, debatably unsuccessfully at this point, but there's a lot of time left. We haven't even talked about Alphonso Davies. His situation remains the same. I don't think Madrid's going to pony up any money for him, and honestly, why would they? So Bayern's probably just going to lose him for free to Madrid next year. The hope is that he really turns things around under Company, and Company can convince him to stay and everything.
I got to say, I didn't realize that Alphonso Davies had a little taste of the MLS, and I kind of respect him for that.
Yeah. So it's a little bit confusing. I kind of went on a rant in a previous podcast about this, with Bayern looking to offload much of their current leadership structure within the team. It's a little bit frustrating, and I just don't think it necessarily bodes well long term. I think it's just too big of a risk to take at this point. And honestly, the mindset of, we're trying to save money, I think that's kind of bullshit. I mean, you're Bayern Munich. Are you really trying to save money? Maybe you are, but it's kind of small club thinking.
Yeah, I see why they're thinking about it. Chelsea does that too. One of the easier ways to save money is with wages. Some of these transfer fees don't mean as much as people think they do with the big numbers. So I don't know. It's tough. I mean, big clubs still like to cut costs too. That's just the way of the world in the business world. So
yeah, it is. But you see how much they're willing to pay for some guys, and you see guys like Davies getting these big offers, and then they want to cut a guy like De Ligt. It just doesn't always add up to me. I don't know what the bosses are really thinking, but at this point, we'll just have to wait and see because there's so many rumors and there's so much time left. Who knows what will actually happen?
So much time, you say, but at the same time, it's only about a month away, which is crazy, and preseason's going to ramp up, and we'll see what Company does, what players he likes, who he throws out there in the preseason, whether that actually means something. We really won't even know till the first game. So,
sure. Well, do you want to talk about Chelsea's exciting fun in the sun summer?
Yeah, so much happens every single day at Chelsea, huge football club in London, and there's all these news reports. Things are true, some things aren't true. So much happens, but at the end of the day, not much has happened in terms of actual players coming and going in Chelsea since our last podcast. I touched on some players that were official at the time, the Kieran Dewsbury Halls and the like, but really the only other official one was the other day, Caleb Wiley coming in from the MLS. He's just going to go out on loan to Strasbourg. So right now, Chelsea's embarking on a United States tour, which is awesome, preseason. And they just released today their roster of who's going to be there right away. players will join at a later date, but as of now, it's a 28-man roster. And the notable exceptions were Petrovic in goal, dealing with an injury, Amari Kellerman, who we signed from Villa, dealing with an injury, and then you got Trevoh Chalobah, who it sounds like they're kind of icing out from the team because they want him to leave.
But he wants to stay.
Yeah, it seems like he wants to fight, which he's done in the past. Interesting scenario because it feels like they're not treating him with a ton of respect. It's tough. You can't keep everybody. Academy players, as we know, are pure profit. It's going to be tough. I think if Enzo Maresca really liked him, he would stay. Simple as that. I know the sporting directors and owners have their own priorities, but I believe that they're going to give Maresca the chance to say who he likes and who he doesn't like. So that's a factor too. I think I trust that. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, like you mentioned with Bayern Munich, you have a season go on and you have injuries and unexpected things happen. And look at last year. I mean, Chalobah was an important piece, at least in the end of the year when I was watching. Obviously, you don't expect all these injuries to happen again, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like I've said it a million times with Chelsea, but it seems like, and now without Silva, the center back position is one of their more, I guess, volatile spots.
It's volatile for sure. It's also kind of reloaded now. You got Wesley Fofana coming back from injury, and he figures to be a guy that wants to start. I would slot him in at right center back. And then you got Disasi still there. You bring in Tosin, who's a huge presence, literally. He's 6'5". And then on that left center back spot, you still got Benoit Badiashile. You got Levi Colwill, and they want to get a good look at a youngster in Josh Achimapong. I'm probably butchering that last name, but, that's 6 names right there. So there's a lot to kind of hash out with the starting lineup. Preseason will be very interesting just because there's some key guys that will be returning, the Palmers, the Gallaghers, unless Gallagher goes to Atletico Madrid.
I was just about to say I wanted to know your opinion on that because I know nothing's really moved since, but there's been rumors about him going to Atletico.
Yeah, I like Gallagher quite a bit in terms of who he is as a person, the type of player he is, the little engine that could, if you will, that type of player. I wouldn't be super sad to see him go just because I think our midfield is in a really good spot. Some attacking guys that can play midfield like a Palmer, but, you got Carney there. You got Lavia. You got Caicedo. Andre Santos potentially. Let's not forget about Enzo. So we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about Enzo in a minute here, but that's what is going to make preseason interesting for me is you're going to have these guys playing, fighting for spots, and it's going to be really important to impress Maresca to see what tactics he uses. It's interesting because last year in preseason, I would have said Ian Matson would have been a really key player for Chelsea. Poch was playing him in the midfield, and he was scoring goals. So something like that where I would have said he's playing a role, and then they basically iced him out and sent him off on loan, and now he's permanently at Aston Villa. So you just never know.
Well, there might be another reason why preseason is exciting for you. Where are you going to be at 3:30 a.m. tomorrow?
Let's see, 3:30 a.m. tomorrow. I will be waking up so that I can catch a flight over to the beautiful city of San Francisco. Yeah, so as I've mentioned in the past, I will be seeing Chelsea's first preseason game against Wrexham in Santa Clara Wednesday night, if you're in the United States. They're playing at Levi Stadium where the San Francisco 49ers play. Yes, it's very common in America to name a team, a city, and then not play really remotely close to where that city is. It's about an hour out of San Fran, but super excited. I mean, I like Wrexham a lot as well. I've watched all the seasons of Welcome to Wrexham. Just watched their first preseason game the other night against Bournemouth. They're looking great, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, that was a draw, right? 1-1?
They did draw them, and although they had to play fairly defensive, Bournemouth played some key players for the most part and gave them a run, and they still kind of stopped them, so that was good to see.
Well, most importantly, Bournemouth's jerseys were designed by Michael B. Jordan.
Yes, correct. Michael B. Jordan, a small minority owner of Bournemouth. So that was cool to see. Obviously a lot of Hollywood connections with that one. But yeah, I will be definitely posting a ton of content on Twitter for my trip over there to see that match. We'll see if I meet up with any San Franciscans, San Joseans, Santa Clarans over there that support Chelsea. Unfortunately, not going to have a lot of time kind of before or after because I'm taking a shuttle from San Fran into the game. But I'll do the best I can to maybe get some good pictures out there for sure.
Thank you, because the Twitter account really appreciates it. We've been going viral lately.
Yeah, it's awesome to see Twitter kind of being in the mix for things, supporting players on Bayern and making them feel good.
What are you most excited about seeing when it comes to preseason Chelsea?
Most excited about seeing the warm-ups. That's what I noticed when I went to a preseason match last year when I saw them play Dortmund at Soldier Field. Loved seeing the warm-ups and seeing how skilled the guys really are. It's super exciting because a lot of times these American pitches aren't as good as they are over in Europe. So the game itself, while exciting, many believe that they're really not going 100%. So the warm-ups are where you can really just hone in and watch guys, watch how good their touches are, their passes, their shots. It's really fun to see.
Do you think you might pick up some pointers for you and I?
Definitely going to pick up some pointers. I'll probably record some drills that we can take back and start learning ourselves. Pretty soon I'd say we'll be at the level of these guys.
I would say so too. You and I started playing soccer maybe 3 weeks ago at this point, and we really hit the ground running and joined a league, and playoffs are tomorrow. So wish me luck. I'll be under the bright lights of Milwaukee South Division, MPS South High School. Beautiful field, turf field, amazing stands. And I guess I'm saying this with hesitation because I don't know when this is going to come out yet, but the playoff is Tuesday, July 23rd, baby.
And we'll see what happens with our future because it's looking bright, I'll tell you that.
I'd say so too.
Yeah, I'm just really excited for the trip. That's kind of how I'll end this, and no way to really segue into this one, but I did mention the player Enzo Fernandez. I just thought it was prudent to discuss briefly. We're not going to go into anything crazy here, but to recap for those listening, if you missed it, Argentina wins the Copa America. And I guess I'll go back a little further. When they won the World Cup in 2022, their fans started this chant where they were singing about French soccer players, specifically players with African descent. And they had beaten France in the World Cup, and essentially it's a racist chant that kind of calls them out for having these players that have lineage in Africa, but yet they're playing for France, which, as we know, if you follow soccer, especially on the international level, most teams have guys that are able to play for multiple countries due to their parents being from somewhere else, whether they're immigrants themselves, whatever the case may be. It happens a lot across soccer, so it's not uncommon and pretty unfair to call out just the French for that. But that's the backstory there. Now we fast forward to today, or this year I should say, when they win the Copa. The players are seen on a video taken by Enzo Fernandez on a bus singing what was the start of the chant, and then I think they cut the video, but the players still singing this chant about French players 2 years after the fact, after they're winning the Copa America, which has nothing to do with France at all. Which to me, that was kind of the first alarming part.
Yeah, I was confused about it. As to, you mentioned it, right? So many countries have players who maybe weren't born in that country or just have a different lineage playing for them. A lot of European countries, especially. So I was confused as to why France was being singled out. I get the World Cup win, but again, that was years ago. Why is that still a chant? Why are you still talking about it?
Yeah, from what I've briefly read, Argentina doesn't have the greatest reputation in terms of the way that their people are with some of this material. I don't want to comment too far because I don't know enough about it, but in my opinion, it seems like, first of all, the players, you have to know better. Whether they're good people or not, you have to know better. I believe Enzo probably is a good person. He still has to know better to not do that. I bring up Argentina as a whole because sometimes things like this, you have a way about going through your life, getting used to doing certain things. That doesn't make things right, though. So you got to know, Enzo plays in London. He has teammates that come from every religion, race, background, ethnicity. So you got to know that there's a better way to go about things, and you should know that that's a racist and wrong chant. So definitely unfortunate that he kind of got caught up in that.
Yeah, I think you put that very eloquently, and honestly, more than I've even thought about it, really, because, like you said, it's really hard to understand, at least for me, the complexities of Argentinian history and why these things are the way that they are. Obviously, a lot of European countries are known to colonize these different areas in South Central America, whatever it may be. Bottom line, it doesn't make it right. Regardless, you got to know better, like you said. Regardless, these are racist chants, and you can't be saying stuff like that. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's certainly going to bring about a good discussion. Premier League, they had been kneeling before every game to try to bring awareness to racism. So Enzo certainly knows that it's a relevant issue in today's world. I wish it wasn't an issue. I wish people were just kind and loved each other, but unfortunately that's not the way of the world. I think it will bring about good discussion because Chelsea already has their first black player has spoken out about it. A guy that was really the first ever at their club kind of said he's willing to educate Enzo and kind of the rest of the team on topics like this, which I think is great to have that type of discussion. I will say, while I blame Enzo a lot for it, I think it's unfair that he's kind of been the only one taking some of this. It was a lot of Argentinian players. So I hope they all find that awareness and knowledge that they need to become better people as a whole. And I'll also add that I think there's better ways to handle things like this as a club and organization. And I'm specifically talking about the players. I think if you're West Fofana, you can certainly speak up about it, and you should. You should let the world know that racism is not allowed. I think the team needs to come together, though, in private and talk about it as men, because that's what they are. They're men, and they need to be able to look each other in the eye and have discussions that are important and say, we can talk this through, and then whether we become teammates that are better for it or not, that's fine. But I don't like seeing all these rumors and kind of side discussions take place because, like I said, they're men and they're adults and they should be able to handle it themselves.
Yeah, you hope that these conversations happen, and you hope that they happen privately. I guess some stuff has to happen publicly now that Enzo's original video was public. But yeah, like at the end of the day, it's not up to these black French or black whatever players to educate the rest of the world or the guys on the team like Enzo who are saying this dumb shit. But ultimately, you got to hope that some sort of education happens and, the team comes together and really, finds a way to get above it. There's similar discussions that happen a lot with the German national team and just in Germany in general. There's a lot of completely racist remarks saying that they want real Germans, meaning that they want white Germans to be playing for the team, which is completely unacceptable and just it has no place in soccer. Like, soccer should be a place where these types of things fall to the wayside for 90 minutes. And, obviously people have to return to the real world and things have to be dealt with. But you hope that soccer can, at the end of the day, be a unifying force.
It's a beautiful game. It brings beautiful people of every type of walk of life together, and that's what it should stay. Let's just all love each other and enjoy the beautiful game together.
Well, with that heavy ending to this episode of the Always Bayern Chelsea show, I guess we'll send you on your way, and we'll all wish you safe travels, and we can't wait to see what comes of this trip.
My gate already changed twice, so wish me luck.
Wow. All right, well, I'm gonna start sending us off in a new way. Just because Go Bayern's kind of boring, I think I gotta go with the classic Mia San Mia.
Up Chelsea.